perfect politician to me, perfect representative to me is Barack Obama. He came in, Reason in a Song, Sauce I Love, came, then the nigga left, Obama. That's, to me, the perfect politician, the perfect representative. All right, good afternoon, which is when this video is going to come out. Highly doubt you're watching this as this premieres. So welcome to Mulatto Munitions. I am John. Testing out some equipment. So jumping in right now, I'm going to read probably one of the most fun essays I've written called We Should Treat Politicians Like Milk. Excuse me. It's called Politicians Should Be Treated Like Milk. I am going to do what I did with the Chud the Builder video, and I'm going to read the essay, and then I'm going to come back and have commentary after. Again, this is a fun video, so hopefully you enjoy. Not meant to be too serious, but just my personal philosophy. So I am a content creator on Substack. You can find me at mulattomunitions.substack.com. It's been fun, great place to write. Highly recommend if you're getting into writing. Probably shouldn't yell into the mic. I'll whisper. So I am going to link a time below. I've lightly figured out how to do that. So if you don't want to hear me read, I'm going to stop looking at the camera. If you don't want to hear me read, stop looking at my computer. If you don't want to hear me read, skip to the time below. All right, we'll get started. Politicians should be treated like milk. I used the Harvey Dent quote from A Dark Knight: die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. At the beginning of this essay, I define what a politician is, and this is from Webster Dictionary. It's a person experienced in the art or science of government, especially one actively engaged in conducting the business in government, or a person engaged in party politics as a profession. Politician, the term, comes from the Greek tradition politikos. Siri decided to jump in there. It comes from the Greek tradition. Politikos is a Greek word meaning of, for, or relating to citizens, the state, or its administration. As our representatives, they are meant to literally represent the goals and desires of we the people for their district. Why do I believe they should be treated like milk? I respond with the question: when does a politician stop identifying with we the people and Why do I believe we should treat them like milk? I respond with the question: when does a politician stop identifying with we the people and begins identifying with the other members of their bodies? I will focus on the House of Representatives as this seems to be the most egregious. A freshman representative coming from Omaha, Nebraska, is going to be different than a freshman representative coming from rural Alabama. They will share similar journeys while in D.C., regardless of party. They will be in the same political circles, going to the same restaurants, and dealing with the same people. It is my belief that as they become more comfortable, politicians become complicit in helping the machine that is D.C. continue its mission. They know what to say and which elbows to rub to get things done. Every couple of years, they get a performance review from voters and either continue in politics or lose an election and find a new job. My opinion is that politicians who stick around too long become less citizen and more politician. They become a relic of a certain time and can no longer adequately reflect the people. Term limits exist for this purpose. PBS has a good article on the reasons we as a country ratified the 22nd Amendment to limit the highest office in America. It also highlights why Thomas Jefferson believed anyone seeking a third term should be rejected. I did link that PBS article, but I didn't know how to do links at this time, so it's not included there. Jefferson was outspoken in favor of the two-term tradition. As Corsi notes, this was in part because Jefferson saw little distinction between a long-serving executive in an elective position and a hereditary monarch. In other words, a president without term limits is too much like a king. Jefferson was outspoken in favor of two-term tradition. I'm rereading. Jefferson saw a president who was willing to break the two-term tradition as power-hungry, and he hoped that the American people would not elect such a president. This led him to write in his autobiography in 1821 that should a president consent to be a candidate for a third election, I trust he would be rejected on this demonstration of ambitious views. I don't want it to be all doom and gloom. Some politicians do a great job. It doesn't appear to be easy to navigate D.C. The political world seems like the one that hammers down the nails that stick up. Think about a Marjorie Taylor Greene who bucks her own political party, or an AOC whose initial political views felt too extreme for a left-of-center person like me. Both women had to play the game to change the game. AOC adapted, And at a time when even the Democratic Party favors old white men, she has positioned herself to be in some form of leadership, if not even the presidency. MTG, on the other hand, didn't bend the knee. She had her principles, and MAGA and rhinos alike turned on her. I tend to prefer a politician who sticks to their principles and allows their careers to end when the party no longer aligns with them. Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, and even Joe Manchin come to mind in recent memory. I don't know that I agree with any of their positions, but they did what they needed to do and gracefully left when they no longer felt they represented we the people. Lastly, I believe safe seats breed complacency. Chuck Schumer is allowed to be a terrible Senate leader because he is able to tune out his district. He is allowed to completely play the game of politics because his seat is safe. The same can be said of a lot of senior leaders in the House. They know that they can act and perform for donations without doing actual actions to bring about the changes that we the people demand. So, what is my action for you? Vote in the primaries. Don't let your representatives feel comfortable even in a deep blue or red district. Show up to town halls, call their offices. Don't let your representative lose touch with their constituents. I don't believe in career politicians. We should have a pipeline. Either get promoted or get out of office and prepare the next generation for the office. Look at the gift horse in the mouth. Check to see if your politicians are getting long in the tooth. They represent you. You don't represent politicians. They should do the right things, but don't let them get comfortable and think that being the incumbent means they automatically win. Regardless of the changes they need to make for their they should do the right thing, but don't let them get comfortable and think that being the incumbent means they automatically win, regardless of the changes they need to make for their districts or state. So that was my reading of politicians should be treated like milk. I tried to mash up Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Joe Biden as all probably my top four people who are very long in the tooth. If you don't know what that means, there's a joke about, not a joke, but an idiom, I think is the right term, of don't look a gift horse in the mouth. The idea being, if you're being gifted something, don't critique it too much because it might not be the best, but it's a free gift. Anyway, I can easily talk about my beef with the people on the left, but I'm a left leaning person, so I'll start with my smoke for the people on the right. Someone like Mitch McConnell should have been set out to pasture by his district probably right after Obama left office. He, if you're a Republican, did a good job of being a thorn in President Obama's side his entire time in office, especially after Republicans took over the Senate. If you believe that politicians should play and pick sides, Mitch McConnell did a phenomenal job picking sides. I personally think politicians should work for the people. So, I hate, I mean, it's a strong word, but I hate how Republicans handled Barack Obama's presidency. I think the animosity is the reason why we have a Donald Trump. And I honestly think Trump is probably the least representative president we've had in modern American history, in that he doesn't believe he serves the people. He believes the people serve him. And I think that's blatantly obvious. I'm not going to out myself. But yeah, I think it's pretty blatantly obvious that Donald Trump serves himself. So for my two people on the left that I highlighted, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I'm not an inside the beltway political person. I don't know the truth. But from what I understand, RBG wanted to step down and be replaced by Hillary Clinton, a woman to woman transfer, make this history. And Hillary Clinton didn't make it. I believe there were talks for her to step down during Barack Obama's term. It would have been dicey because Republicans had the Senate, and we all know what they did when it comes to Supreme Court justices being confirmed while Barack Obama was in office. So she held on too long. I give her respect. Her rulings were in favor of my political views, but because of her actions, we have the Supreme Court that we have today that gutted the Voting Rights Act, that is playing a lot of games with a lot of different laws that guarantee rights for citizens. You know, the Supreme Court that allows ICE to racially profile people based on the accent and their profession and their appearance. I think if we had more balance, maybe we still have those things, but it's not a 6-3 beatdown that we're getting all the time. And I'm not a fan of packing the Supreme Court. I think it's a game that once you start playing, it's going to get played again. And it wouldn't be the first time in America's history that a political party packed the court if Democrats decided to do it. But I think we're already in a pretty crazy spiral, and that would just infinitely make it worse. So I got beef with RBG. I think she helped get us to where we are today. And probably my biggest beef with the Democratic Party today is Joe Biden and the decision maker, Joe Biden, I don't hate his term. I think he was the best alternative to Donald Trump in the 2020 election. I think he was foolish to run again, and whoever told him that was a good idea was foolish. And whoever supported him running again, who knew the condition that he was in, was foolish. We could all see he was deteriorating, and there's no reason to sit here and pretend like, you're voting for this guy for the next 4 years. If he's going to run him and say, hey, short-term president, I'm here to run against Donald Trump, but my VP is going to be the leader, so let her take the center stage. Or if he decides to change VPs, bring another VP in and, let it be their campaign, but Joe Biden's at the top of the ticket because he's not going to survive. Biden shouldn't have run. I think Kamala Harris would have had a chance if she was allowed to run a full primary and go to all 50 states and make her case in primaries. But that's just me. Not going to dwell on it too long. So the spirit of this essay is, I got to start with the genesis of this. So the genesis of this article is in June of 2025, so exactly a year ago, pretty much from when I'm recording this, U.S. Senator Alex Padilla was dragged out of a press conference that Kristi Noem was holding in regards to ICE detention or something.
Anyway, Noem just giving a press conference on immigration raids in Los Angeles. During the conference, California Senator Alex Padilla was forcibly removed by security after interrupting Noem to ask a question.
I don't know why you insist
so I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up, hands up.
Also, I want to talk
Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact that
Senator Padilla later spoke to reporters on how this all unfolded.
So I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed. I was not arrested. I was not detained. I will say this. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
Well, he said something that pissed me off, and he basically said that a U.S. senator should be treated special, that what was done to him shouldn't happen to a U.S. senator. And to me, that is the sign of a person who does not see themselves with we the people. And that is someone who sees themselves as above us. And that, if it happened to us, okay, by standards. But if it happens to a U.S. senator, God forbid they be treated like a normal person's treated in this country. And so, that's my beef with politicians who stay in too long. They start to see themselves as politicians and not representatives. We sent you there to do a job. I get if you're running for office, there's a political ego involved. There's a demand to have strong principles and values regardless of what's being told to you. And if you're a representative for, hundreds of thousands of people, you're going to hear conflicting messages from all of your constituents. You got to kind of listen to the loudest voices or the most prominent voices. But to believe that you are leading them and not following their wishes, to me, is the point where you become a bad representative and become a politician. And I think that distinction has to be made clear, especially America's going through a bounce back period. Ta-Nehisi Coates just did a podcast, and I can't remember with who, but I was listening to. I didn't know anything about the redemption period. So, following the Civil War, there was the Reconstruction where the Union soldiers of the North and Union infrastructure of the North came to the South, and the South had its first black representatives elected to Congress. There was a big boom for the black community in the South during the period of Reconstruction. And after that, and now I forget the term that Ta-Nehisi Coates used, but I believe the term was redemption. There was a period of redemption once Reconstruction ended where the South basically erased all of those gains and did everything it legally could to oppress black people. The reinstitution, not reinstitution, but the institution of Jim Crow gets its start in the redemption period. And so I think right now we're in like a microcosm of that, of you have this ultimate progress with America electing its first black president. And then after that Reconstruction, you get the birth of Donald Trump as a political figure. And, he has a grip on people. He has a hold on people that makes no sense. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. I'm going to say it 50,000 times. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. So Donald Trump represents this kind of redemption period. And I think we are going to see a backlash. The day I'm recording this is, less than 24 hours after Democratic Socialists won New York. I need to specify I'm a moderate. I don't like socialism in the United States. I think socialism on paper is phenomenal. I like the idea of socialism. The United States has not addressed racism enough for me to feel comfortable with this country being a socialist country. I love socialists. Please try to convince me that socialism is great. But I promise you, socialism in this country will be used to oppress people of color, the people who need it the most. Socialism in this country, if this country is allowed to do what it normally does, will end up being, oligarchy on steroids of, who is the government subsidizing if it comes to free foods? Is the government subsidizing the largest producers of meat? They get Tyson's chicken. If socialism gets popping in this country, Tyson's chicken is going to get insane amounts of money from the federal government to make their prices lower. And will there be regulations on Tyson's chicken to, what they can put in their food so that they can save money to get, more profit out of their products? Anyway, went down a tangent, shouldn't have gone there. I think the rise of socialism and the left, and I can already hear the Ben Shapiro in my head saying, they represent the Democratic Party, they blah, 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 whatever. That's New York. That is New York. That is Chicago. That is LA. That is not Charlotte, North Carolina. That is not, I don't know, Indianapolis, Indiana. That is not, these smaller blue cities that aren't these massive congregations of people. And I think it's because, especially blue cities and red states, no one understands the government can be used against you. And so, how much power are you willing to give a government that the next election might see you as a threat and try to attack you? Again, that's my reason why I love a good blue state Republican and a good red state Democrat. They understand the power of government when it's in the wrong hands, and generally will act to curb government intervention in a way that if power is given to the wrong party, that power won't be used to harm the people they represent. Way off track. Video's at 20 minutes. I'll keep going because I'm going to have some cuts. So, politicians should be treated like milk. I don't think that qualifies for every politician. Perfect politician to me, perfect representative to me is Barack Obama. He came in, Reason in a Song, Sauce I Love, came, then the nigga left, Obama. That's, to me, the perfect politician, the perfect representative. He rode a wave, he had a mission, he accomplished that mission, and he dipped out. He's not running for any other office. There's no office higher than president, but he could, try to go for a Senate. He could try to go for a different position. I don't know if there's any rules around that, but in my mind, he could. But, he got out of the politics game. I look at someone like Adam Kinzinger, who came in on the anti-Obama wave, I believe, in 2012, and he had principles, and he was a small government conservative. And Donald Trump came in and took a dump on small government. And so, Adam Kinzinger lost his place in the party and he left. And he's still trying to change his party. He's still trying to make it what it is or what he wants it to be. But like, those to me are politicians that we should recognize. And like, I got to shout out, I didn't know anything about Indiana politics before meeting my wife. Her mom worked for Senator Lugar, and he to me is an example of someone who stood the test of time and had principles. And the party left him. I don't think he left the party when he lost in a primary, and he was willing to work across the aisle to get things done for his constituents, for the people he represented, and for this country. And those are the politicians that we need to keep an eye on as potential leaders for us on the big stage as president. But these people who get into Congress and stay there for 30, 40 years and make their stock trades and tell us what we should think and, play the game of politics. Chuck Schumer comes to mind of someone who, everybody talks about him having, I don't know, the strongly worded letter method. He can say that and do that because that feeds his base to say, look, he did something. But it's like, we know, like, and I'm not a fan of his politics, but Tim Walz is an example to me of, someone who says, I've got political capital, I got to burn it. And he likes to tout that he was endorsed by the NRA as a Democrat, and then he voted to ban guns or remove guns. He did something that caused the NRA to lose it. And, that's his principles. He stood on that ground, and, he's reaped the rewards and dealt with the consequences of those actions. And like, again, that to me is a good person who's a representative of the people. But then you have politicians who like, look, I'm a big fan of AOC. Again, this is someone who doesn't support socialists. I see her as someone who's witty enough to survive, but she's not, I don't think she's complacent staying in the house for the rest of her political career. And I hope she runs for president. I hope, again, we have a free and open primary for the Democratic Party. And, she could be someone who might get my vote simply because I think she knows what her constituents want. And she has an avenue and a venue for them to speak to her and for her to hear that. And I don't like her policies, but if it's her versus whatever MAGA spits out, obviously I'm going to go with her. I'd be very proud to vote for her. If it's someone like a Gavin Newsom, who I feel like is a weasel, is a worm, Gavin Newsom will take any position to get himself elected. And that, to me, is someone who we need to be concerned about. That's not genuinely listening to the people. That's listening to the pollsters. And those sorts of politicians are dangerous because they will sell your rights out as soon as it's convenient for them to. That's as far as I'll go with Gavin Newsom. So this essay was a fun one. We need to, in my opinion, throw out politicians who have gone sour. And I will say, my wife and I had a disagreement on this. I got to argue her point. The counter to me is that a freshman politician getting to Congress has no idea what they're doing. They're learning. And one of my great bosses once said, it takes a year to learn what you're doing, and then it takes another year to do it well. Phenomenal boss. I think freshman Congress people are in that same boat. And it's a dangerous game to play because they could be manipulated by the system and the machine. And I say all this as an outsider. It's my understanding that people in Congress, yes, their primary focus is voting, doing that very skeptically. Their secondary purpose is to make money. They've got campaigns to run. They've got to raise money for their political machines. Like, some of these votes are symbolic to raise money. Some of these things they're proposing they know will fail, but it is to garner support by certain groups that will give them money. And like, we got to get money out of politics, support candidates who want to overturn Citizens United. I think I need to do a video on that one soon. But, for me, I think one of those things, get rid of your politicians. Throw them out. It's okay. Find another one. And like politicians, so my representative is Andre Carson. Please don't wake up. All right, we're still asleep. So the politician for my district is Andre Carson. And he's someone that is a bit of an enigma to me. I think it's unfortunate I'm going to name drop somebody, and I don't necessarily, love this person, but I think Cory Booker has done the things that I would want to see out of my senator and my representative. And I think Andre Carson is in a safe blue district and has the ability to walk that line. And I just don't see that from his office. And to his credit, he's probably doing it. My wife looked things up about him and found these things that, he's been doing in these committees he's working on. I did not look any of that up. We are in the day and age where a politician can jump on a podcast, can jump on a news show and get a 30-second clip. And maybe he's not a public speaker. I'm an introvert. I don't like doing this. I like doing this. Don't listen to me saying that. I feel uncomfortable, and it takes me a second to process exactly what I'm saying because I'm nervous, of saying the wrong thing as an introvert. But, maybe he's an introvert like me. Maybe Andre Carson doesn't like to, speak in ways that will make him go viral. Completely understand that. But I think it's unfortunate and disappointing for me as a voter to see that this opportunity to be, the safe blue district in Indiana, and I him out front, pushing other candidates, pushing other policies that this city and ultimately the blue dots in this state that aren't in Indianapolis want. But he voted for gun control that sours for me. I'm probably going to vote for him in the next election. I don't see any candidate that would ever make me think in this upcoming election that I should vote for them over Andre Carson. Probably conceding my vote way too soon, but I will reluctantly vote for him. I think he's done good things. I don't like all the things he's done. And I do think there were candidates who represented me better in the primary, but he won, and I'm not going to buy any of his merch. Not doing it. I don't know. Anyway, politicians should be treated like milk. I am John of Mulatto Munitions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Testing out some new equipment. I had an audio interface that I need to have an SD card for it to work, so you did not get that audio interface this time. You got the old school mic. But I did add a secondary light source, so your boy is lit up in a way that I have not been lit up before. And I feel like it's kind of giving me confidence to look at the camera. So I appreciate your time. Yeah, I don't know what my next video is going to be, but work in progress, baby. Work in progress. Have a good one.